All right, so it was WWDC, which is Worldwide Developers Conference, MMX2. So I guess that's what, 2000, or 3, excuse me, 2013. And they had a lot of developers there, and when they opened up registration, it sold out in 71 seconds. So the media still got their things in, but it was pretty tough, and the ticket's expensive. I didn't go. The ticket's expensive. And in fact, I'm able to share with you stuff that's public knowledge tonight, and I specifically have not signed the new developer agreement because I don't want to be on the NDA, non-disclosure agreement, so I'm able to talk to you about stuff that's public knowledge. If I was a developer, there are certain things I couldn't talk about, and I don't want to breach that. So after this meeting, I can go ahead and sign up, and I can get the betas if I want to. I don't know if I will. You know, I mean, I look at it a lot. I may do it on a separate machine. So, how many of you are in password hell? Come on, it's the biggest call I get. I think with all this other stuff going on, the best part of WWDC is we are now going to have our passwords on the cloud to all our devices. Now, that may not sound very big, but think about it. You log into Amazon.com on your Safari browser on your Mac, and then you go to your iPad. You go to a new website. So let's say you go to a brand new XYZ website on your Mac, and then you go to your iPad later on and you go to the XYZ website. You don't have to log in again. It gets that password from the cloud and fills it in for you. To me, that's great because we have all these different passwords. The other great thing about Keychain Password is that it's going to automatically make up very secure passwords if you choose it to. You can use your own passwords, or it can make this virtually incrackable password, and it will remember it and put it on all your devices. So while I've been a proponent of LastPass and 1Password and good memories, this is going to be great. I have a very simple password. I get to stop using my simple passwords and I become less of a target. Richard will really like this because this is everything it is. But the best part is it's done the Apple way. It's done very easy and it's automatic. So it syncs in the cloud with all your devices and it's very, very secure. Okay? It's as secure as you can get. So sorry it's a little blurry there, but it was kind of taken off of the web. But you'll notice that password there, it just made that one up and it works really well. The other thing is it's not good to have these companies store your credit cards. The smaller companies, you know, Amazon's probably pretty well protected, but so many times when you order something from websites, you're reluctant to put your credit card in. And I use PayPal usually, but if I'm going to put a credit card in, I tell it not to store it. Well, the best thing now is, with the new iCloud Keynote, your credit cards, you can store them on your Mac and it will fill them in for you. And all you have to do is fill in the 3-digit or 4-digit code if it's American Express on the back or front of your card, your CVV code. And you pick which credit card you want. So no longer is the merchant having to store it. You can choose which card you want and it fills it in. And in the PC world, this would be really good because there's things called keyloggers where people watch what people type and that's how they harvest their credit card numbers. Because they can see the keystrokes. So we don't have that problem on a Mac, but I just think this is so convenient and it's an option. You can do it or not do it. It's up to you. So I think that's going to, I really think the biggest thing in this whole announcement was this iCloud keychain because come on, I get those calls all the time from you guys. God, I've got to reset my password 12 times and then they want this 12. I don't know what it is. And I mean, it pulls your hair out. It's really, really tough.
Will it be part of Mavericks?
Yeah, it's part of Mavericks and it's part of iOS 7. And so everything goes together with it. I don't know if it'll go back. If your machine can run Mountain Lion, it can probably run Mavericks. We'll talk about Mavericks in a minute. If you have an iPhone 4 or newer, an iPad 2 or newer, and a mini, and an iPod 4th generation, I think it might be 5th, 4th generation and newer, they can run iOS 7. So they really didn't exclude much, and there's some behind-the-scenes capabilities in iOS 7 and in Mavericks that have made everything just perform even better than they ever did. There's just, it's amazing what they've been able to do behind the scenes. Some real geeky things like data compression, data mapping, etc.
Ken,
Yes?
do you have to have a password to access that
It,
keychain?
it'll be locked with your computer password, or actually I think it's probably locked with your iCloud password or your Apple ID password. So you don't want to forget that one.
So we got to do some work.
Well, no, because if you're logged into your computer right then, it does it. But it all depends. If you log out of your computer, you'd still have to log in and have that. They don't want to make it too easy because you don't want somebody just coming behind you and,
Well, that's what I was thinking.
yeah. So it's, again, it might cause you to have a little more, if you're in an environment where someone else can get to your computer, you might need to put a little more robust login password on your computer. That's your choice. So the second biggest thing to me was iTunes Radio. iTunes Radio. Now, how many here use Pandora? How many of you like Pandora? It's really good, right? Well, Pandora's under some pressure because it costs them, they have to pay the record, they're being extorted by the record label companies and stuff, so they really have to do some things to draw ads, and now they're saying you can only play so many hours. Pandora's great. iTunes is everything Pandora is and then more. iTunes Radio. So, how many here are iTunes Match customers? Okay, $25 a year. You throw up to 25,000 pieces of your music up to the cloud, and it's available on your devices, and it cleans it up, it puts it in higher format and everything. iTunes Radio has two types. It has a ad-based free iTunes Radio. iTunes Radio, you can say if a song's playing, you can tell Siri to say, hey, play other songs that are just like this. A lot of things you have to do manually with Pandora, you can do with iTunes Radio. You can also click on it and say, I want to buy that song. But I think Apple realized that the younger people and people that are doing music a lot aren't carrying their music around anymore. They're picking up on new people and new stars and new songs. And so this really was, it's amazing because Google came out 2 months ago, a month and a half ago with their Google Play, and this just kicks its butt. So it's free if you want ads. If you purchase iTunes Match, which gives you this 25,000 songs syncing up to the cloud, cleans up your music and everything else, $25, $24.99 per year, you get ad-free iTunes Radio. And it is not radio. You pick the artist. You say, I want Inagata-Davida by Iron Butterfly, and it'll play all, 27 minutes of it or whatever it is. Carol, question?
How does it compare with Apple TV radio?
Well, it's funny because the beta's rumors, they show an Apple TV being able to run iTunes Radio. So you'll be able to use your Apple TV as your music server at home also. So we already have iRadio or radio inside iTunes, but that's like these different radio stations. This is your own personal station. You can, just like you build playlists in iTunes, you can build your own radio stations of certain artists. Let's say it's the list when you're getting ready to go on the treadmill, not for a while for me, but when you go on the treadmill, you want something fast and paced. When you're getting ready to go to sleep at night, you want something. You can pick that radio station, and you've chosen songs, or iTunes Genius will find songs similar to those, and you can see if you like them, and you can add them to that list. We're going to see more and more of this, and I think it really is done right. And if you really want to have that song within iTunes Radio, you can say, okay, purchase it to iTunes. So it's wonderful. And iTunes Match, I got to tell you, if you have a lot of music in your iTunes library that was acquired through other means, you don't have album covers because, hey, come on. iTunes Match is your amnesty. That was the agreement Apple made with the record companies. They take yours, and yours might sound like an old scratched up 45, But you upload that song to iTunes Match, it gives you a higher quality version of it with the album artwork and all the other information, and you are then absolved from it. And you do it one time and it cleans up your iTunes library. But if you continue to do it year by year, you get iTunes Radio ad-free. And I'm not a huge music person at all, but this excites me. I think this is great. It makes it fully functional wherever I want it. I have a new receiver at my house. It's AirPlay, so I can push from my computer or from my iPhone or my iPad. I just push it right to my stereo wirelessly. So go ahead.
Is iTunes Radio going to provide something for those of us that like talk radio? And I mean NPR, not.
Well, NPR, there's already an app for it. So you already have that.
But it's not very good.
But well, and you can go to particular stations, but no, I mean, you got to remember that, okay, so does it sound like that person's voice or does it sound like what they're talking about? So I think talk radio doesn't fit into this at all.
It drops the signal too much, all of those things. They don't stay. I lose it. If I'm walking around listening to the radio through.
Are you on AT&T?
Yes.
Well, there's your reason.
Okay.
I listen to talk radio a lot. I use Tom Sullivan. I listen to him in the afternoon. I got Clear Channel, iHeartRadio. If you have an iPhone 5 and AT&T and you have LTE, I find that I turn off my LTE and my 4G gives me a more consistent, less dropouts. I don't know why that is. I think they're going to improve it because LTE is supposed to be more robust. It's like the old joke I always just say when people say, hey, Ken, I hear on Sprint and Verizon you can't make phone calls and be on the internet at the same time. And that's true because they both use the same, they can't use the internet and the cell phone at the same time. And on AT&T, you just can't make any calls at all. But that once these carriers can start putting voice over the LTE band, it will help cure that. But yeah, I think it's just that your problem is not with NPR.
Okay.
I'll bet if you're at home on Wi-Fi, it works fine.
Not if I move around.
On Wi-Fi, then you need a better router. So iTunes Radio, it'll obviously be free to download. It'll be part of iOS 7. It'll be part of Mavericks. I'm not sure if it's going to be part of Mountain Lion or not. I don't see why it wouldn't. Okay, but again, if you're on Mountain Lion, you can probably get into Mavericks. I mentioned too, you can just have Siri say, hey Siri, play so-and-so, or play songs like this one. And so Siri is going to be expanded more and more, and we could go into a big, long thing about that. But Siri is going to get much, much better. And now they're letting developers work with Siri, where before Siri was only for Apple apps and things, they're letting other developers work with it. They'll also probably roll out some exclusive songs to iTunes only, and then it goes to all of your devices. iPod Touch, iPad, iPhone, Mac, and again, indications are it will go to Apple TV, which I think is great too, because it's usually, your home entertainment system is usually where your Apple TV is. So how many here are Pages, iWork users, Pages, Keynote, etc.? Well, you'll be happy to know that now there's going to be iWork for iCloud. So the problem has been collaboration with other people that use Word or Excel and things like that. Believe it or not, let's say you have a Mac at home, but at work you've got a PC. You'll be able to go into a modern browser, Safari, Chrome, even Internet Explorer, one of the newer versions, and from your work computer go into iCloud and get your Keynote document or get your Pages document and work on it right there. You can do masking. You can do virtually everything. I don't know if you can do Instant Alpha if you do Instant Alpha, but I'll tell you, this is pretty cool. So you could open up that Word document. You could work on it in Pages, save it back as a Word document, all through your browser, even on a PC. So that, they don't know pricing yet. I have a feeling that if you own, and also the other news that came out, and this has not been spoken much, I just heard this little tidbit and they talked about it. In the fall, we will finally have an update to the iWork suite, we think. So the two will probably go hand in hand. So, because it's getting a little long in the tooth, we're using what? iWork 09. Okay, so anyway, I think that's going to be great because It takes Google Docs, it takes Live 365 Office. Who needs it? You can use iWork. So it's really, really cool. I have a feeling the only problem you're going to run into is you won't have the huge amount of font selection when you're doing it within a browser, because browsers don't offer the ability to render in as many fonts. So there'll be a few things like that, and I would imagine some of the major keynote type actions won't happen. But I think this is going to be great. So coming soon. It'll be in the fall, we think. They'll probably have a fall thing when they roll out whatever new phone or phones they have. That's when they're going to roll out iOS 7. Now, iOS is the iOS operating system. Instead of, we have macOS for the Macs, iOS for the iPod Touch, the iPhone, and the iPad. iOS 7 looks completely different. It looks lickable to me. It's so funny because if you think back about it, our most recent of Mail and Mountain Lion, all the icons used to have colors because our eye picks out colors and shapes really well. So they went through and they made everything gray, which didn't, I mean, Apple's all about usability, and I think this is really good because instead of every icon being blue like they've tended to do now, they start to put some color in there. It doesn't cost any extra to use color, so they decided to. And I'm not going to show them here, but in the video you'll see it. The new weather app is gorgeous. I will point out I really like the weather app on the iPhone, but I found a new one that's very similar to what our new weather app will be, and it's Yahoo Weather. It's free, and it has beautiful screens behind it and works very, very well. In the break, when you see the iOS 7 video, you'll see how the new weather app looks. It's great. It's got, if it's raining, it'll show falling raindrops behind the screen. And when you watch the keynote and the videos, please notice that the screen is essentially three-dimensional. The icons, or the app icons, tend to float above the base, and as you rotate it, there's some geometric things going on in there, and the background looks like it's away from it, and it's a three-dimensional feel. And why? I don't know. Why not? They decided to do it. Gone are the leather stitching around the calendar and contacts called skeuomorphism. It became a big deal. It was as big as telling people to get rid of Comic Sans. I think it's nice, and the young people have really embraced it, so that's a good sign, because it was getting a little dated. And, you know, the most recent things, yeah, Samsung has really done big numbers, but it shows that they're starting to taper. And in fact, the retention rate for Apple iPhones over the Samsung phones is hugely different. People are trying those other devices and then they're coming back. So anyway, iOS in the car, it's going to have enhanced Bluetooth. So you're going to have what Apple has is this thing called Eyes Free, this initiative that makes it so you can keep the phone in your pocket, not have to look at a screen, and Siri does everything to you. They currently have it if you have a headset plugged in or Bluetooth. If I'm sending a mail, it reads back to me what I told her to write, and that way I can correct it. I don't have to look at my screen, and I shouldn't either. Apps near me, this is another new thing. You'll be able to go into the App Store. Let's say you're Fargo, North Dakota, and you want to know if there's any specific apps for around where you are. And it will take your geographic location and say, oh, these apps are kind of for where you are. If you're in the Grand Tetons, there might be particular apps for the Grand Tetons. Not just like Yelp or lodging apps, but actual apps that were designed for that area. Because, you know, there's so many apps, you don't know how to weed through them all, but it'll show you they're available if you decide to. And that'll be built into the OS. Now, everyone probably heard the news about the kill switch. And this is something that Apple initiated, and I think it's fantastic. If you lose your phone, or if your phone gets stolen, it has no value to anyone, because it will be permanently locked, and it can only be unlocked with your Apple ID and your password. So it's not where they can turn it on and wipe everything off of it. It will be locked. Even the Pope can't undo it for you, okay? It's locked. That's all there is to it. And you can restore everything if you find your phone and log back in. And the best part is because on the Find My iPhone, people could shut your phone off and you couldn't find it. Or they could reset it and you'd never find it. Now they can't go in if you lock that phone. It'll stay on so you can continue to track that phone until the battery goes dead. And if they plug it into a charger, it'll still come up and you'll be able to track your phone. But the beauty of this kill switch is only the dumb thieves will steal iPhones now because they have no resale value. They can take the phone, but they can't get it activated anywhere. You actually, when you do Find My iPhone, the question was, what turns on the kill? When you have Find My iPhone, you're able to go into your iTunes account and say, lock my phone. It used to be, well, currently is if you send a lock code to it, you can still erase it, but then you can't track it. But what would happen is if you put the code in, you can say, hey, after 10 times, erase my phone completely. So somebody can sit there trying and then poof. So it's really, really good. Has anybody ever had an occasion to use Find My iPhone for anybody? I mean, what a godsend. It's just great. I had a client call me up. She wanted me to do something else on her computer just last 2 weekends ago. And she's saying, yeah, I misplaced my phone. I know it's around here somewhere. And I says, well, let's do Find My iPhone. So we get on her computer and we pull it up on the screen and it shows up at her house. And it shows up that it's maybe a little outside. So I says, and she's got like a 2.5-story house. So I'm going, oh, geez. So I said, well, we'll just ping this. Even if it's on silent, if you have the ringer off, you can send a ping to it and it'll beep. It'll ping for 2 minutes at a time. Well, also on the screen, it shows you the battery level. It said 3%. So we started going around and I says, okay, she went out to her car and we heard it pinging. We opened up the doors to her car and we heard it pinging. And I'm on the passenger side, she's on the driver's side, and we're looking. She thinks it's on my side, I think it's on her side. And so we realized it slipped between the driver's seat and the console and it was so far down, we would have never found it, but we heard it pinging. So we got the phone. By the time we got it up to her computer to plug it in and charge it, it completely died.
Wow.
So timing was everything in that case.
How do you send a ping to the iPhone?
Well, you go into Find My Phone. You go to iCloud.com and hit Find My Phone or use the app on another device. You wouldn't use it on your device because you don't have it. And you say play sound. And when you say play sound, you can say, hey, scumbag, bring me my phone back, or whatever you want to say. Reward if you bring this phone back, and it'll display a little message on the phone. The cops are wise to this too, and they'll actually go and track people. The only problem you run into is in multiple story buildings because it's GPS, and it's like, there was one case where the cops were at the door. The people had tracked the phone. They knew it was in this location, and they knock on the door. They don't have any right to go in, but they're there, and the guy says, no, there's no iPhone. It was left in a taxi or something. So right then they send the ping, and they hear this bing, 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 bing. The cops are at the door, and they hear it and go, that's the iPhone. Busted. But now there's no reason to steal them because there's no value aftermarket. They can't do anything with it. So I think it's good, and realistically, they're going to sell less phones because of this, but I think it's the right thing. And Samsung has already said that they're going to follow suit.
Is that going to be built into the iOS or in the hardware?
In the iOS. Because it's iOS only, because it's just, the iOS is already up there, so you have to be able to turn it off or reset it, and what happens is if the phone reboots, let's say it runs completely out of power, and you plug it back into power, it's stuck back in the firmware now, so it comes back up, and it's going to do that. So it's a great kill switch. It really is good. So the other improvement is, how many of you have a bunch of photos on your iPad and your iPhone? And there you go down and keep going and keep going and keep going. Well, now they've got it. So it will actually put it into event styles for you. You'll have like folders. And you'll see it in the video. You can't display it statically here. But what happens is, as you roll your finger over your row of folders, it will magnify the photo you're on so you can see it. and go through and you can see it. So it makes doing your, and you're going to actually be able to make albums for these. And I think that's a huge improvement. That's really going to help with photos a lot. And for those of you that use PhotoStream, you'll be able to selectively share albums or events from your photo library. And this is not iPhoto, this is photos on, we're talking about iOS 7, so it's on your iOS device now. So I think that's a huge improvement. The other thing is how do I get stuff from my iOS device to my computer and my computer back to my iOS device? Or we've all seen those commercials where somebody says, ooh, I can go up and bump the information to the other person. Bump to this, to that. Apple now gives you AirDrop. If someone wants to be visible near, let's say this group, if everybody turned on their visibility in AirDrop, anyone else can decide to drop you a file from you will show up on their computer or their iPhone or their computer. This works on the computer and the iPhone. You'll show up on their device and you say, just drag that file and put it right on that person, and all of a sudden Carol's got that photo. She chooses to accept it or not accept it. And remember, you determine your own visibility. Had a question over here first?
What about like a Pages document or Keynote? Can it be other things other than just pictures?
Yep, it's files. It's files. Al, was that?
What's the range? Is it just Bluetooth range?
Well, it's, you know what it's, I think it's Wi-Fi and what, Bluetooth, does it say Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi and Bluetooth.
Yeah, so Bluetooth, generally speaking, Bluetooth has a 30-foot range, but Bluetooth 2 and 4 has a 100-foot range. So what would happen is, if you're doing Wi-Fi, if you're on the same Wi-Fi network, it would work. Now, obviously, it won't work on your cell signal because Al could be in Arizona and I could be here and it wouldn't want it to show up. You'd probably have to go the old way and email it to him or post it to iCloud or PhotoShare. But if you're in the same proximity, if you're on the same Wi-Fi network, or if you're within Bluetooth range, which makes sense because any larger than that, you just have too many people. So, and again, you always have the option of accepting or not accepting the file and making yourself visible or not visible. Okay? Another neat thing is, how many times when you grab your phone, oh, I just want to turn my Bluetooth on or my Bluetooth off, or I want to see what's playing, I want to adjust it, I want to put it in airplane mode or do not disturb. You're now going to be able to bring up from the bottom, control center, and it has some of your most common controls right there for you. AirDrop, a flashlight app. So now all of a sudden, it's called being Sherlocked. Remember years ago we used to have Sherlock as the search thing in a Mac, and then all of a sudden they built Spotlight into the Finder? Well, that application was called, it became ubiquitous. It doesn't need it at all. So now whenever there's an app, when Apple does something that circumvents an app that's already there, that's called getting Sherlocked. So all these flashlight apps just got Sherlocked because you have a flashlight app right there. Your calculator's down there, your camera, your compass. If you want to do AirPlay, like push it to a speaker or something like that, or AirDrop, your iTunes, it's just, I think it's great. And it really, really helps if you're changing things. So that's iOS 7 that we talked about at the or they talked about at the WWDC. Any questions on the iOS? All right, we'll move on to Mavericks. Anybody know why it's called Mavericks? Yeah, well, yeah, and you got to watch the keynote because Greg Ferdighi gets out there and he says, yeah, you know, it's really tough. We're running out of big cat names. And so he says, I'm here to announce Mac OS 10.9 Sea Lion. And they have a little picture of a sea lion up there on the thing. And so they decided it was a little better to show the waves. I don't know if you're familiar with Mavericks. It's off of Half Moon Bay. It's the big super surf contest for the real huge waves, 30, 40, 50-foot waves out there. And Mavericks, what they've decided now is they've got this designed in California theme, and they're going to do spots from all throughout California because they said, we ran out of cat names, and they figured they didn't want to do Meerkat or something like that. So, Bob?
Have you looked up and read the history on Mavericks?
Yeah, I actually I used to be in the surf business and know those guys. That there's the Maverick Surf Shop and those guys.
So here's the joke, and what's gonna be start floating around is the OS name, they're gonna say we went to the dogs.
Yep.
It's a.
Oh, because the dog Maverick from the yeah. Yeah. And actually it's funny, somebody mentioned online that one of the, Apple, when they first introduced one of the iPhotos or the camera on the iPhone, they had a lot of pictures out at Mavericks and they were really pushing that and showing it, but it would have been kind of lame, I think, if they just had put Cupertino because the little original. The whole naming thing, the way that all came about was years ago they were developing numbers. We had OS 7, OS 8, OS 9, but they would give a name internally, and it was just, like the president has a code name, different names they make up for him when the Secret Service talks about, I'm going to get somebody who's, whatever it is. They were doing that for the different operating systems and even for the different programs. And it was a way to talk about it internally just so people wouldn't know what it was. And we went through in 10, it started being more and more of the cats, and they went through, and so they've kind of embraced it now, and it kind of makes sense. Hey, let's call it by a name rather than a number, and it kind of personalizes the whole thing a little bit. So, I'm sorry?
If they're consistent.
They're consistent in their numbering.
But in your iOS device, it'll never, or on your computer, it'll never say OS 10 Mavericks. It'll say OS 10 point whatever, whatever, whatever. So if people are talking about Mavericks, but the computer doesn't use that name, that's where I get messed up.
Well, but sometimes they do snow leopard. I mean, it does make it a little bit confusing, but I just think it personalizes it. But you can call it whatever you want. Still people don't know it's OS X or OS 10,
Yeah.
So.
But sometimes people like you will be saying you have to have snow leopard to be able to run this, but you look at your computer and you don't know what snow leopard is because it's only listed as OS 10 point whatever.
Yeah, I think in the newest OSs it does list it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it didn't used to. Because the cat names, believe it or not, really only became more prevalent. We had Puma and Cheetah and Jaguar. Remember, Jaguar and Steve Jobs said Jaguar. At 10.2, I think it was Jaguar, and he says it a little bit different than most people. Yeah, so I don't know. But anyway, they do put it in. I know in 10.8 they do at least. They say snow leopard. So, how many here use iBooks on your iPad and your iPhone, and now you have it for your Mac? Coming up in the fall with Mavericks. Who knows why they didn't? I really think it had to do more with licensing issues from the manufacturers and things. So it allows your iBooks to go everywhere. There's also a Kindle app for the Mac too. That's, just if you're using Kindle, it's great. You can use that. It's no problem at all. Now, have we all gotten over the problem that Apple Maps had on the iPhone?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's great. You now have maps for your Mac. But I got to tell you a little story about maps because I've been a proponent. I've said Apple Maps on the iPhone are the greatest. Well, I did a little thing. I was going down to San Jose, and I'm going down 99. I'm just north of Stockton, and there's a sign on the side, and it says, Royce Farms Barbecue. It's a neat-looking billboard, and I'm seeing, all right, I've got to make a reminder because I'm going to go try this barbecue place out when I come home because it's in the morning. So I grabbed my iPhone, or actually I had in my car, I had my Bluetooth. I hit my Bluetooth button. I said, when I get here, remind me Royce Farms Barbecue. So it pinned my location. So I went on to San Jose, and I'm coming back, and I'm going up 99, and my phone goes, bing! It says, Royce Farms Barbecue, because it knew my location, right? So then I'm going, well, shoot, I don't know if it's this exit. So I turned and looked at the southbound 99, and I saw the big billboard, and the billboard said 8 Mile Road. So I said, I missed it. Okay, well, I'll get it next time I come down this way. So I decided to go home, and I put it into Yelp and looked, and it was getting okay reviews. And I did it on Google Maps, and it showed me where it was. It showed me that it was on the southeast corner of 8 Mile Road and 99. So I'm driving to it. I get Apple Maps, and I go Royce Farms Barbecue. It tries to take me to the southwest part of the interchange, and there's nothing there. And I'm going, you know what? It's over there because I used Google Maps at home before. And it's the first time Apple Maps has led me astray. And you know what? I wish I'd have listened because it's the worst barbecue I've ever eaten in my life. So maybe it knew something I didn't, but I should have listened. Apple, I mean, that's a true story. In fact, Sean, that helps us with Empower Mac, was with me. We were heading to a hockey game, and we both said, no, never again. So you're going to be able to have maps on your Macintosh, and it's going to do quite a few things. You'll be able to see real-time traffic like Google Maps does currently. We think transit is coming to it, and they'll have 3D, a lot of choices. So this is pretty similar to what you're used to, but you'll be able to get the full feature of all the different spots and the Yelp ratings for different things that are nearby for what you're looking for. But the best thing is, if you pick a map here via the cloud, you can pick it up on your iPhone or your iPad. So you can be on your big computer, figure out your route, figure out what you want to do, and boom, push it right to your phone. So Apple Maps is good. They're just really trying to marginalize Google as much as they can because Google's trying to marginalize them. So, and I really think, if you've used Google Maps on the phone and you've used Apple Maps, I don't know, but to me the interface is so much nicer. It really, really, really is. So, and it's getting better all the time. And the best thing is, the more you use it, it will feed back and update real-time traffic anonymously. If you're going 30 miles an hour, it can get that and feed back to the maps, and eventually it will be real-time traffic from the feedback of people using it. Hang on one sec. Go ahead.
How else does Google get that information?
Oh, good question. So how does Google or how does Apple Maps get that information? You remember in the old days, KCRA and KFBK had the helicopter that went around and gave you the traffic reports for all of Sacramento? Well, now what they've done is Caltrans went in and put in all these speed sensors in all the freeways around and all these cameras, and now they have this control center, and they share that information with all the radio and TV stations. So you don't have all those planes flying around. This is derived from that too. If you have XM or Sirius satellite, it comes in over your radio. They're all pulling from the same place, same thing.
I always figured it was from phone signals.
No, but what will happen is that will be better. They haven't instituted that, but they will. But what will happen is it'll be more immediate, and it will be the pace of where you are right then, and then it calculates histories, and it's just amazing what it can do. Google's doing it too, and so is Apple, and I think you'll really, really be accurate.
So they're getting feeds from every municipality on the planet?
No. The people in their phones. Oh, this? Yeah, because this is public. They tie into that. There's these companies that are traffic aggregators. Like, I think it's Intrex and Trafix are two of them. So, question over here?
Yeah, if I design a route on my computer, what's the link to the iPhone?
You just hit send to my iPhone. It goes via the cloud to it. It doesn't send that map. It sends that information, and it sends the same thing over there.
And so then when I turn on the iPhone, you click on Maps?
Yeah, you go to Maps, and it'll either be the map you have, or you can say, hey, this is the one you just did. They haven't got it yet, but you'll just say, oh, is this the route that you brought over your phone? Is that what you want to use? So it just, sometimes it's, especially if you're doing something with multiple waypoints, that really will affect that. But it's just so much easier. You do it on a screen, you're doing whatever you want, boom, it's done. In the iPad and the iPhone, the Finder is non-existent, right? The Finder where all our files are and our folders and all that. And I've been saying that the Finder is getting out of the way. If we're in Pages, we just want it to find our Pages files. If we're in Keynote, we want it to find our Keynote files. But the Finder now will be able to tag things. So in other words, tagging would be like a description. If you have, instead of putting them in folders, you can say, all of these files are my MacNexus classes. All of these files are my income taxes. And you put a reminder. You don't have to put them in folders because they have a keyword, so to speak. And you can have multiple tags for any file you want. It's really just another way to search for things and find them and organize them without having file folders and things. And the beauty of this is that because we don't have a file folder structure over into our iOS, they didn't announce this, but I think in the future it'll just be a way to search for it in your iOS also. Go ahead.
You know if you can, you're gonna be able to tag multiple files at one time?
I don't know, but I would assume so, because usually you just highlight them and then you probably have a keyword or something and say tag this, kind of like you do with anything else right now. You know, we've always been able to do that in the comments section, but it's in any file has when you say get info and you've got a little comment notes area, but nobody's really ever used that. And I think again, this is putting it more and more so you'll be able to carry it over and do it on your iOS device.
Well, like playlists.
Playlist is in iTunes, so that's different.
Yeah, but same
Oh
idea.
yeah, kind of like that, or albums in iPhone, but it's actually more like keywording. It's more like going into an art, well, good one's a song. You know, there's a genre, it's jazz, and it's this, etc. So you can have different things and it'll search like that. So these are just tags in folders, and you can see how it makes folders. So it's kind of like a preformed search. You say, go find all of the bird safari one, and they're in there, or etc. You can also put the same thing with your apps. So in your apps, when you're saving a document in Pages or Keynote, you can tell there's a tag right there. It's an important one, or work one needs to be done by a certain time. And the last one is, it'll propagate over to the cloud, and you can have different tags in the cloud. And once you've made a tag, it becomes an option to put on the other things. In other words, if you say, certain address, summer home or something like that, that one, once you've made summer home tag, it's available to tag anything else you want, and you can create them on the fly, and I think it's endless. Don't get carried away.
Can you tag contacts in iCal?
No, it would be in notes, I think. That's usually in notes. I'm looking for better integration between iCal and contact, or actually contacts and calendar. I was called iCal and address book. One thing that'll add to this that tells me the Finder's around for a while still is we have Finder tabs. Just like Safari, where you can browse in tabs, you can open up a Finder window and you could have a tab with your pictures folder, a tab with your documents folder, a tab with your applications folder, and they're all up there, and that's pretty cool. The other thing they demonstrated on Mavericks is the ability for multiple screens, and I'm not a fan of full screen apps now, but in the new one I will be, and if you run multiple screens, there's a lot of different things you can do. So that's the end of Mavericks. I'm going to just quickly show you a couple other things that were introduced. I'm sure you heard about the Mac Pro. No, this isn't one. That's my speaker. Somebody mentioned earlier that it looks like one of the Mac Pros. God, they didn't. I guess they had them there, but they were under glass because they were pre-production prototypes. The thing's a monster as far as what it can produce, but it's 1/8 the size of the old Mac Pro, and probably 8 times the power. It's amazing, and it won't be cheap. There's no hard drive inside. Everything's done through Thunderbolt on the outside and USB 3. It's going to be pretty amazing, but it won't be cheap, but it's for a very, very, very high-end specific crowd. The Mac Pro has become less useful for most people because the darn iMacs are so powerful these days. So,
I have convective cooling like the Cube.
yeah, the correlation between it and the Cube has been run around quite a bit. I think so, but I don't know. And I didn't really look at it. I mean, but I guess with this thing at the top where he's saying, well, finally we have a cup holder, and you got to be careful because you don't want it to get in there. And they say you can warm your toast on it or something if you want. They also introduced, and I don't want to say a new MacBook Air, a refined MacBook Air. It has a new processor in it. It's called the Haswell, for those that want to know. It's a ultra low power processor. The new MacBook Air, the 11-inch gets 9 hours of battery life, and the 13-inch gets 12 hours of battery life. And that's amazing. And it's a little bit bigger battery than they had before, but the big thing is this processor. And it has better graphics than it did before. So it's the same outline, the same profile. I think it's like a couple ounce or an ounce or two more than it was. But other than that, it's very powerful. And I'm a MacBook Pro kind of guy, but I'm kind of considering that I might go with this because the graphics, because of the new chip, the graphics are really pretty darn good. So 11-inch and 13-inch, and they actually lowered the price, I think, on the 11-inch, if I'm not mistaken. $999 it starts with. They introduced two other things, kind of this whole tower theme, a new Airport Extreme and a new Airport Time Capsule. They're both the exact same layout. What they've done is it uses this new protocol, which the new MacBook Air has, called AC. It's essentially gigabit Wi-Fi. It's really fast Wi-Fi, but you know what? Really fast Wi-Fi is only important if you're transferring files because, or video, like to a TV or something, but your internet is, your current routers are always going to be faster than what your current internet is. So you don't need gigabit Wi-Fi, but AC has better range, and they did it this height like this because it gives better range for antennas, and then the beauty of it is the same one is a time capsule with a 3.5-inch drive in it. Either a 2 terabyte or a 3 terabyte drive sits inside it and it does all your backups for you, or just as a regular Airport Extreme. So one downside I did notice, and I was surprised on this, it's only USB 2 out the back of it. So, but you can hook up printers to it in the back or other hard drives, etc. So those are new ones. Those are available now. The MacBook Airs are available now, and the Mac Pro will be available at some time.